Today's lecture is on managing marketing information. More specifically, we're going to talk about sort of why it's important that marketers sort of manage information, something called the marketing information system and how that's used, and then we'll look at some different techniques for collecting information, and finally we'll discuss a few sort of unique issues and some ethical issues associated with gathering marketing information. I think that it's quite obvious that if you don't have good information, you run the risk of making bad decisions, that you need information in order to make good decisions. You need to determine what consumers want. You need to know what's happening in the micro and macro environment that we talked about in the last lecture. And also, once you implement that marketing mix, you need to know whether that's working, whether customers are responding to it correctly. And so you need to conduct marketing research. You need to have information and make good decisions. Now, something that a lot of organizations have is set up in place. It's called a marketing information system. And this is sort of a set of procedures, people, various equipment that's used to gather and process information on a routine basis. And that information will flow up to managers as they make their decisions. So let me give you sort of an illustration of what a marketing management information system looks like. Okay, so the marketing information system is this sort of large square, and on top of it we have sort of the management functions that we've talked about before, where marketing managers are sort of analyzing, planning, implementing, and evaluating control. And so as they go through and make various decisions, they need various pieces of information. And so a good marketing information system will sort of assess those needs. Do you need information for the analysis stage, or do you need it for the implementation or the evaluation stage? Is this information that you need for a one-off situation, or do you need it every month? Where is the information coming from? Is it coming from competitors or from customers, or is it just sort of general information that's coming out from a sociological trend? So there needs to be some way of assessing the needs that managers have. And then there are various sources of information that can be used by this information system. For example, internal databases. Many companies have information that they collect about customers, about sales, various transactions, and that's information that is available to marketers to have, and the information is sitting in sort of large warehouses that they might have access to. So they might have a question about how many customers buy this particular product and buy this one as well. So that transaction information could be sitting in some sort of internal database. A good marketing information system also has some aspect of marketing intelligence. This is where information is gathered on a sort of a continuous basis about all sorts of different aspects from the microenvironment, say about government agencies, about information from trade associations, also from the microenvironment, information that's routinely gathered about customers, suppliers, competitors, intermediaries, and as I said in the last class on the microenvironment, what many companies do is they have specific individuals that are responsible for bringing in market intelligence for certain aspects of the environment, maybe for a particular competitor or a certain association, and that information is sort of routinely fed into the system so that others can use it. Marketing research is the sort of systematic collection and analysis of specific information. So say, for example, you've implemented an advertising campaign and you want to know whether it's working. So you would conduct a study to evaluate whether consumers are aware of it and whether the message is being transmitted to them, whether they're interpreting what you want them to. And so this can be done sort of internally or externally, but market research is sort of a one-off types of projects that go on. Finally, you need some system that will allow this information to be analyzed and processed and sort of put into a package that can be easily used by managers. Companies also will use advanced statistical analysis and modeling techniques in order to be able to process this information so managers can make some good decisions. And finally, the information would be distributed either through presentations or reports or using computers. So many companies have this type of system in place. So there's all sorts of different types of information, and it really depends on the needs that marketers have. And there are various processes or procedures that are in place so that marketers have information from various sources. So they might need to know about a customer, so they have access to a customer database. They might need to know whether customers are reacting to a certain product, so they're able to do market research. They need to get competitive information, so there's a competitive profile that's produced on a monthly basis. All those pieces of information, fall out of this type of marketing information system. Now there are sort of three general types of marketing information or types of market research that are done. The first is exploratory research. This is the first step that a company would do to try to gather some preliminary information, clarify a problem, develop some hypothesis, get an idea about what's going on. So say, for example, a company is concerned that maybe the advertising isn't working. So what they might do is some exploratory research to just try to get a handle on it, to see is it the advertising campaign, the actual ads itself, or is it placed in certain media where customers aren't seeing it? Is there some confusion in terms of how the ad is interpreted? So what they might do is some exploratory research by doing, say, a focus group, inviting some consumers in to talk about the advertising and to see if there are some problems associated with it. Descriptive research describes the situation or problem. And so what a company may do is say, okay, I think that maybe there is a problem with this ad, so we need to collect some data. So we're going to go out and do a phone survey and ask 300 consumers whether they interpret the ad the way that we want them to. So we're actually going to collect some hard data and really get a good description of the situation and find out what might be going on. And causal research is looking for cause and effect. And so here we might do some research that where we have a hypothesis to say that if we do this, this will happen, and so we might do, for example, an experiment. So we might have two different ads and look to see which one generated the most sales. Okay. Now, data can come from many sources. As we've sort of talked about, there are all sorts of different types of data that are needed, information about competitors and that, and so we can generate from several different sources. Okay, the first source is secondary data. This is information that's been previously collected. So the example of going to a company's internal database with transaction data, that's an example of secondary data that already exists. Or perhaps going to a trade association or government data collected by Stats Canada. It's collected for typically another purpose, and it's available to be used. Marketers will always begin with secondary data, always looking at what's currently available to try to give them some insight first before going and collecting primary data, which is data collected for a specific problem or situation. So, for example, a company might be interested in knowing about how consumers shop, and so they might set up a camera and be able to sort of look at the consumer patterns. Or they might be concerned that consumers aren't satisfied with the service they're getting at a bank, and so they'll set up a camera to look and measure the queues and how much time people are spending waiting for a teleservice. Or they might issue a questionnaire or a telephone survey to find out whether consumers are happy with the service that they're receiving. That's primary data, data collected to answer a very specific question.